Okay, thank you. Welcome everybody to today's Cabinet meeting. I think the first item is apologies for absence. I understand we have apologies from Councillor Eddie Moores. Yep. Okay, brilliant. Second item is urgent business, and there's one item of urgent business to consider, and that's the COVID-19 Additional Relief Fund, and I think that's going to be discussed and considered at item 10 of the agenda. Item 3, declarations of interest. Councillor Roberts.
Hi, I've got a personal interest in item 8 as I'm a trustee of Positive Steps and I won't take any part in the discussion or vote.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts.
Sorry, Chair. I'm also on the board of Unity Partnership, and that's discussed item 6. So I'm a representative of the council, so I don't know. Is this personal?
Thank you for that clarification and for your declaration. Okay, item 4, public question time. There's no public questions. Item 5, minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 13th of December 2021. Are those agreed? Agreed. Thank you. And then item 16 is a review of the Council's wholly owned company Unity Partnership Limited. So this is my item, and as you know, when I became leader of the Council, we said that we were going to make sure and work really robustly to ensure that we're a resident-focused Council, and this is partly the priorities that we had discussed then, and at the heart of what our ambitions were of becoming a council that was more resident focused. So this paper sets out the outcome of the latest annual review of Unity Partnership, and it seemed like a really, really timely opportunity to actually look at it in the whole and the services that we provide. And we know the services that Unity provide. When we say Unity to the general public, they don't really know what that means, but to us, we know it's the services that mean the most to our residents. So it's like the benefit system, it's our highways, it's council tax, it's all the stuff that really, really matters to local people. So this is a really, really good report with recommendations to bring that back in-house. Bringing it back in-house presents us with lots of opportunities that are really beneficial in helping us working towards being a resident-focused council, and that's because it will drive more efficiencies. It'll mean we'll have more control in the services that mean the most to our residents. So bringing Unity staff they'll be back, but they'll be back into us, won't they? So, yeah, so 100%. So 400 members of Unity staff will be working directly for us. Again, that's really good news for them, and they're really happy. We've been having conversations with them throughout the process, and it's something that everybody is agreed upon. And they are the services that matter the most to local people. And it will help us deliver more value and money for our local taxpayers as well. So unless people have got comments, I'm asking for people to help support and vote to support this recommendation of bringing them back in-house. Yep, Councillor Traditon.
It's just to say, I suppose, thank you, I suppose, to yourself and the Chief Executive for bringing it forward so quickly. I think the services to the average resident, us changing Unity means absolutely nothing to them, because they don't differentiate the fact that Unity oversee our benefit system, council tax and highways. And in terms of budget, you know, it's nothing like what we give to adult social care or to children's social care, but these are the things that people see, and these are the things that we are judged on. And I think the performance around Unity has been a source of frustration for many members of the council for, you know, a number of years now, and that's because that's a source of frustration from our residents as well, and that's what the feedback has been. And, you know, for yourself to come in as leader only in May, and for Harry to come in as chief executive, this is a really, really significant report, and the changes could be huge going forward. And hopefully, and I'm sure they will, have a, you know, real tangible positive benefit on how we work as members with those services and with those team, but also for the outcome, and most importantly, for the residents and for what they see on the ground and in the town as well. So I really, really welcome this report, and you know, you've done a lot and we've done a lot over the past 6-7 months, but I don't think we can underestimate how huge this is for us. Yeah. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. I think the points you raised are really, really important. But I think, like, for me as leader, having come in May, I think this is a significant step. And you are right, we have done a lot. But I have to say at this point, I have to attribute the success of this in such a efficient time, but in the right way, you know, putting people at the heart of it. So that's the residents and the staff who work there, actually. The credit goes to Harry as chief executive. He's done it. So I've been leader since May, but Harry didn't join us till August, September, to do it in such an efficient time, but to have ongoing conversations with unions about what that means for staff, making sure that we're a resident focused council you can't do on your own unless you've got an organisation that absolutely believes in it too. And I think you've demonstrated that really well as chief executive, and I feel personally indebted to you for that. I think it's fantastic. I think you're helping us deliver exceptionally for our residents, and I understand residents won't see all of that now, but in a couple of months' time, in a year's time, residents will be able to see that this is a council that works for them and is here to address their every single need and help them and support them to get on in life. And I really appreciate that as an officer that you've taken that forward and committed to yourself to it wholeheartedly. Councillor Chauhan.
Thank you, Chair, and I also welcome this report, and thank you to you, Harry and Aruj, and especially how the speedy way you dealt with this. And as Councillor Chatterton said, from residents' point of view, it's not changing the name. Obviously, that will give us a better influence, change and shift in culture in that staff, and hopefully, I sincerely hope that cultural shift will mean that public will see a more responsive service, more timely service, and where the residents being respected as residents as being their right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chauhan. Does anybody else have any comments to make? No? So are those recommendations agreed? Agreed. Brilliant, thank you. Item 7, council tax, tax base and non-domestic rates tax base forecast 22-23. Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you, Chair. So this report seeks agreement on setting the council tax base for next financial year and non-domestic rates for next year. So basically, Chair, this is quite a technical report, but I'll take you through the key numbers. So roughly we have in Oldham, well, not roughly, exactly at this moment in time, we have 95,640 properties that we can actually charge council tax to. And then we make a number of adjustments as explained in page 23 of the report. And then in the end, we end up with a figure which is called the Band D equivalent, which is 57,450, an increase of 250 from last year. So that's good news. So the first part of the recommendation, Chair, is for Cabinet to accept that this is the base that we use to calculate the council tax for next financial year. And the second part is asking for delegation authority to myself and the Director of Finance to vary the final business rate forecast for business rates. Happy to take any questions, any technical question. Our Borough Treasurer is here along with the Chief Executive, so happy to answer any question, Chair.
Thank you. Does any member have any questions for Councillor Jabbar? No? Okay, are the recommendations of the report agreed? Agreed. Brilliant, thank you. So item 8 is Positives contract extension for targeted youth support, lots 2 and 3. This would normally be Councillor Moore's, but he's not here today, so I'll be taking this item. So this report seeks approval to extend the current contract with positive steps to deliver some absolutely vital services that support some of our most vulnerable young people. Those services are the delivery of our Youth Justice Board, support and advice for those young people most at risk of becoming unemployed or out of education, and carrying out interviews with children and young people who have gone missing. It also includes the support we provide to young carers, young people who have so many additional challenges but need careful support to identify themselves as young carers and access targeted help to meet the challenges that they face. The original contracts were awarded from April 2020 for an initial period of 2 years to March 2020. This paper seeks to extend that contract for those services to March 23, and this allows us an opportunity to provide continuity of service to those young people from a local trusted organisation who we have a really effective working relationship with, and I'd ask Cabinet to agree this report. Would any members like to comment on the report? No? Okay, so are those recommendations agreed? Agreed. Thank you. So item 9 is the temporary staffing supply contract. Councillor Stratton.
Okay, so the council currently uses a temporary staffing supply provider to advertise for and engage temporary staff. Those services are currently delivered to us by Reed Specialist Recruitment, and they deliver them to a collaboration of all 10 Greater Manchester authorities, 3 other partnership local authorities, Greater Manchester Combined Authority and Greater Manchester Police. And the current contract ends on the 28th of January 2022. This report asks us to approve the award of the contract to Reed, effective from the 28th of January 2022. After a stringent procurement process, the contract was awarded to Reed in January of 2016 for a 4-year term. We then had the COVID delay, and in accordance with legislation, we were able to delay this. But we have been working on this as a collaboration towards letting the contract again. The benefits that the organisations gain from being part of this framework, rather than trying to procure their agency staff on their own, is that we get lower margins, there's a consistent report, there are 80 plus agencies included in the consortium. We get support through a fully defined and agreed hiring process, and we've got some control and influence over the temporary staffing market. Our models indicate that the new service will not cost us more, and the proposal is to let it to Reed again. But the models indicate that the new service will not cost more than the current service. And it's important to note that we will always need some temporary staff. There are a number of options currently being considered in relation to how we do this in the future. And given the flexible nature of this contract, where there's no minimum spend, so we're not forced to spend a minimum amount of money within the contract, this gives us the flexibility to redesign our approach within the contract and without any penalty. So we're asked to support option 3 in the report, which is to join the Greater Manchester HR collaboration. If anybody's got any questions, then if I can answer them, I will. And if I can't, Julia is here.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay, the recommendations are contained within the commercially sensitive part of that report. So for this, is the report noted? Yeah. Okay, item 10, COVID-19 Additional Relief Fund. Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a new discretionary business rate relief scheme that's been announced on the 15th of December last year. It was an overall 1.5 billion nationally. Our share has been just over 4.2 million. And this paper, Chair, sets out how we intend to administer this additional grant. So this is basically to reduce the business rate liability that people have for this current financial year. And it's targeted at businesses who are unable to adapt to impact of COVID-19. So businesses who have already received support, so for example, in the hospitality, leisure and nursery sector, they've already had a business rate discount given to them, so they won't be able to qualify for. So this paper today, the reason it's urgent, Chair, is that we need to deal with this before the end of the financial year. We obviously welcome this additional support for many businesses who will benefit for this reasonable amount of money, 4.2 million, is to agree the way we've explained how to administer this grant scheme, and also to give additional delegation to myself together with the Director of Finance to see, once we open the application, what kind of interest we get, and if we need to modify anything, then we'll do that. So it's welcome news. The reason why it's urgent, Chair, is because we've been given a very tight deadline to give these grants to qualifying businesses. I am hoping that the application will be open by the end of this week, Friday. Certainly it will be open next week, but I'm hoping that it will be open on Friday. So again, Chair, I'm happy to take any questions. Obviously, Anne and the Chief Executive can contribute anything that I can answer to.
Just switch your mic off.
Sorry.
Thanks. It's okay. Good news, and we'll do whatever we can to promote the funds. Obviously, we will, and then continue to make the case to government, actually, because I know 4.2 million sounds like it, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not. It's not when you think of the impact that businesses have had, and then the pressure to push it out through the door in quite an unreasonable time for our own staff. It seems unreasonable in that sense. And I think whilst Boris has signalled the end of restrictions, the impact of the pandemic and the economic impact on local businesses will be felt for so much more and such a longer amount of time. So I think we will continue to press government on our behalf to make sure that there's more support for them. When you actually look at some of the requirements for the grants, they're not straightforward either. And to get them out is going to be a significant challenge. So I really appreciate the work that you and your team are going to do to make sure we do that. But we will look at ways to promote that as much as we can, I think, as well. Councillor Chauhan.
Chair, it seems like you have read my mind. To me, it sounds like, even though obviously we welcome 4.2 million or even 0.2 million, seems like that you've been set to fail with all these deadlines and stuff in sort of like urgency to decide. But either way, as Chair said, I was going to make this point. So if you are Investment Minister, it probably will take you 1 year to recover from COVID as a business. If you're in Oldham, it's going to take you 20 years if you're really lucky, and if you ever recover. Question I had is that criteria we're applying, is that determined nationally or is it determined locally?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So the criteria we will publish on the website, but they've given us a very clear steer that the businesses who have already benefited, so for example, as I said, leisure, hospitality, and nurseries, they've already had relief this year already. So this is on top of those relief that businesses who are not in that category but can't adapt to it and are struggling, then they will get relief from this. So, so we'll make that clear. Just in terms of the impact, you're absolutely right. I agree with the leader and yourself. It's not enough, and also they give us a very tight timetable to dish out those grants. But the point is this, Chair: that every time we have had grants, we've always been able to give it to our businesses or residents who qualify for it. And I think you're right to thank the staff, and I want to repeat that thank, because they worked really, really hard, especially during the beginning of the COVID-19 period, because obviously nobody knew that we'd be working from home, nobody knew that we would be administering these grants which had new criteria and so on, but we did it. And I'm very pleased to say, Chair, that every time we've been given money, we've actually spent it, and we've gone back more to GMCA and government to say, if there's anything else, we're happy to give that. But the overall point, absolutely, that what we're getting is not enough, because the impact has been quite devastating for some businesses, and some actually will never open, and that's recorded. So whilst we're very, very grateful what they're given, because this will help many businesses. This is another 4.2 million in the local economy. So we really appreciate that, and we thank government for that. But do we need more? Absolutely.
Councillor Chauhan, and then I've got Councillor Akhtar and then Councillor Roberts.
Chair, my concern is obviously that I don't know what that criteria is, and I'm sure that will be published. But nature of Oldham is quite unique. The criteria you will apply in Westminster, I will think in Westminster, is not necessarily is right for Oldham as well. So is there a danger that even money is being announced, we might not be able to spend the money? But also I wanted to ask the chair whether you will consider writing to Prime Minister and say we need to have that local flexibility to decide where the money is best spent and where the money is best used, because we might have businesses, we might not have those big businesses, but we might have businesses who are really struggling, and this money could be a sort of like really helpful addition to them. It will be really helpful if you consider writing as a leader of Oldham Council to Prime Minister.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that around the flexibility, around the criteria. What hope I have that will be listened to, addressed, and responded to in a timely manner. I'm less sort of optimistic about. So yeah, happily do that. We'll bring Councillor Akhtar, then Councillor Jabbar, Councillor Roberts, and then you can respond to both. Is that okay? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Chouhan read my mind. But obviously we need that local criteria in terms of just in case some of our businesses don't qualify. But I welcome this sort of funding. Obviously it gives our businesses the chance to actually survive, to be honest with you, in the current climate, the ones that have been struggling. But Councillor Jabbar, could you please elaborate on what kind of support will be available for businesses to sort of basically apply for these funds, and just to ensure that they actually fulfil the criteria?
Go to Councillor Roberts first, and then Councillor Jabbar will take both comments at the end. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. Mine's more of an observation. I know under 6.0 there's a very firm paragraph about fraud and the implications that somebody who makes false representation to gain relief may be guilty of fraud under the Fraud Act 2006. And I'm kind of interested to see that, given that the Chancellor has just written off £4.2 billion worth of bounce back and other loans that were made without any due diligence being carried out by the Treasury. And I'd ask for your assurance, although I'm sure that it will be given in a positive way, that Oldham Council will take due diligence in terms of how it deals with this relatively small amount of public funds.
I think, Councillor Robert, you make a very good point. I can categorically say that the money that we administer, whether it's benefits, whether it's grant, is much more rigorous in terms of the scrutiny that we place on it than local government. I can say that categorically, and I can repeat it 1,000 times. That's absolutely true. Sorry, the national government. Sorry, I meant the national government. That's why it took a little bit longer. If you remember when we were doing the initial business grants, the small grants, people were saying, oh, well, why haven't you done it? Why haven't you? Because we were taking some time to check. And it's absolutely right that as custodian of public funds that we do that. So I can give you that categorical assurance that we do that. You know, the scale of fraud and so on that you're talking about national government, I'm really pleased to say it doesn't happen in local government. I'm really pleased to say that. In relation to the criteria, so if you actually look on page 5, so this is right, reducing the business rate liability for businesses, nothing else, for certain businesses. So even if somebody is paid their business rate for this year, we will, if they qualify, we'll be able to give them a credit in their account. That's what I'm saying. There isn't anything else. I'm sorry if I hadn't made that very clear at the beginning. So this is a business rate relief scheme for businesses who qualify. So those who don't qualify are listed on 4.6. Those who don't qualify are also in leisure, nurseries and hospitality, because they've already received earlier this year a 50% reduction on their business rates. So they don't qualify. So this is people, businesses who are outside those categories. And again, we'll make it very, very clear to all businesses who can apply, and the application will make it clear. And obviously, Councillor Akhtar, your role as lead member for business will liaise with you and give you all the information. And if you require a separate briefing, then we'll make sure that happens. But it is a business rate relief scheme that's been targeted for this financial year, 21-22.
Thank you, Councillor Jabbar. And I think, Councillor Roberts, your point around hypocrisy and double standards is well made. We know that where we have local people who have really struggled over the last couple of years are put through stringent measures, and rightly so, we accept that because that's responsible and the right thing to do. But when that's not played out nationally and it's done in such an overt way without any consideration for what people have gone through, then it does make you feel a bit, not bitter, but at least I understand exactly where you're coming from. It's not right, and we do need to challenge back a lot more in that regard. But thank you so much. I think it's been a good debate.
They are required to send monthly returns, updating government in terms of the payments that's been made. So trust me, it's very, very rigorous. And it's right that it should be rigorous. And I'm very proud that we've done it this way.
Thank you. Okay. So do members agree the report? Agreed. Okay. And that brings us to the end of, oh no, it doesn't. Exclusion of, item 11, exclusion of press and public.
Agreed.
Thank you.